everyone, it's Emily Graziano here, and in today's video, if you read the title, yes, I am presenting to you 10 movies from my childhood that I still love today. Yes, that is the legitimate curveball I decided to throw in this, because I could do a video of 10 films from my childhood that I only loved exclusively within my childhood, but I wanted to make this a very connective video to my life today, and that's why I threw the curveball in 10 movies from my childhood that I still love today. And first note, I want to say I tried really hard not to make this like a Disney video, because I know some people don't like Disney. I mean, I don't understand that, but I wanted to try to make it a majority, but I found that very hard. So if you're not a Disney fan and you don't want to watch, that's okay. There's 10 films on here, 6 of them are Disney. So but no, I really tried. I really tried not to make this all Disney. I did. Second note, I will be presenting these films in the order in which they were released. So I really didn't want to do them in a top 10 order, because that would be sacrilege, and I can't do that. I can't say that I like one film on this list better than the other, because they all are so important. So with that, I'll get started. The first film on my list is not a surprise to any of you if you've watched another video on my channel, The Wizard of Oz. I have loved this movie since forever. I've been a fan of Judy Garland. I wanted to be Judy Garland when I was little. Now, when I say that, I think I'm referring to her talent and not really her whole lifestyle. I got the soundtrack to The Wizard of Oz for my 5th birthday, so that's now coming up on 20 years ago. It will be 20 years ago this August. I remember my 5th birthday getting that soundtrack, and I still have it today. The Wizard of Oz is just such an important film to me and always will be. My uncle, he used to dance the Scarecrow for my sister and I when we were little, and I just have such a connection with this film that will never be severed. It is so important to me, and I may do a whole video, like another video, just on how The Wizard of Oz means so much to me. So with that being said, the first one on here, it's from 1939, so that's why it's first. The Wizard of Oz. Up next, the second movie on this list is from 1955. It's a Disney movie, Lady and the Tramp. This movie is the ultimate love letter to dog lovers everywhere, and now that I'm older, I think it's even more poignant and heartfelt, because it's about dogs and the people who love dogs and dogs loving dogs. Like, the romance between Tramp and Lady is so adorable. I love it. I love it so much. I just, like, Tramp is such a bad boy, and I love that. And Lady's all, like, proper and sophisticated, just like her name suggests. And I just love it. I love it. It's like Romeo and Juliet for dogs. It's so adorable. I just love this movie so much. I loved it when I was little, and I love it now. It's one of my favorite films ever. I definitely can say that. So this, Lady and the Tramp, second one on my list. The third film on my list has a little bit of a backstory, and it may surprise some of you. From 1968, the movie with Henry Fonda and Lucille Ball, Yours, Mine, and Ours. Now, this has a little bit of a backstory. When I think it was 2004, so I would have been like 7 or 8, there was a remake of Yours, Mine, and Ours coming out. Done by Nickelodeon. Like, Drake Bell and Miranda Cosgrove from Drake and Josh were in it, and the premise looked funny, and like all movies back then, you only saw the trailer on TV, and you had to call your parents over and say, look, I want to see this, before the promo ended, or whatever, because there was no DVR. I wasn't even using the internet, or I don't even think YouTube was a thing where you could just go up and look the trailer up online. Anyway, I showed my mom, and she's like, oh, Emily, that's a remake. I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, that's a remake. You're not going to want to go see that movie. I bet that movie's going to be awful. And I'm like, how do you know that? And she's like, I saw the original when I was about your age. Or no, she would have been a little bit younger, actually. Or maybe she was a little bit older. I'm not sure. But she said, the original movie is going to be much better. I'm like, you can't know that for sure. And she's like, you know, I'm gonna find the original movie and track it down, and you're gonna watch it. I'm like, what? I'm gonna watch the original? She's like, yeah, you are. And so she did go out and buy the DVD. And I remember watching it thinking it was so funny, and for the first time in my life, I had to remind myself that Henry Fonda and Lucille Ball, they were acting. They were acting that they were in love. They were acting the parents to all these kids. They were acting. Because before anything I watched, I knew, oh wait, they're actors. But this was so convincing to me that I had to remind myself, they're acting. And I remember asking my mom, wait, is Lucille Ball, is she dead? Because, you know, this is a color film. I didn't know any difference. And like, is Lucille Ball dead? And my mom's like, yeah, she died a long time ago. I'm like, oh. And then I asked her, wait, is Henry Fonda dead? She's like, yeah, he died a long time ago too. This was like 2004, and I think Henry Fonda died in like, was it the 80s? So it had been about, well, the late 80s. So it had been about like, yeah, it had been almost 20 years, I think. Not quite, maybe like more around 15 years. She's like, yeah, he died a long time ago. I'm like, oh, that's too sad, because I had like a secret crush on Henry Fonda. So I didn't say that out loud or anything, but I kind of had like this crush on Henry Fonda. I'm like, oh, that's too sad. But this movie is just one of my favorites. I love it then, I love it now. And it's just so funny. Poor Philip. Philip, I feel so bad for that kid when I watch this film. But yeah, where's mine in hours? Up next is my favorite Disney princess movie ever made, from 1989, The Little Mermaid. And this really shows my age to any of you watching this. You think, oh, Emily likes all this stuff that's cool and like that stuff that I grew up with, but this is probably one of the first things that you didn't grow up with. I wanted to be a mermaid when I was little. I still kind of think it'd be awesome to be a mermaid, but I love this movie so much. I used to actually have my room with the Little Mermaid characters on it when I was little. From like 2nd grade to 8th grade. At the end of 8th grade, I finally got to like repaint my room and stuff like that, because my parents, they hired like an artist to paint the characters on my wall. And then my sister, she had a Beauty and the Beast room by the same artist. And, you know, that was expensive, beautiful artwork. And, you know, it's not something you just keep up for like 2 years and then, you know, get rid of. So, yeah. But I love this movie. I defend this movie from its haters saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's like anti-feminism. But I'm not that person. I love this film. I think you can still be a strong woman and say you still love this film. I will defend this film. I love this film. It's a part of me. Just like Ariel's a part of your world, Ariel is a part of my world. I don't even know if that made sense, but I love this film so much. The next movie is a little bit of a cheat because I wasn't allowed to watch this movie when I was little, but I saw bits and pieces of it, and I finally got to see it fully through when the time was right, because my dad's a stickler for ratings. My mom was more lenient, but my dad's like, no, we're not going to watch that. From 1997, Titanic. I wanted to see this movie so badly when I was little, because like my mom loved it. She still does love it. But I remember seeing bits and pieces. I do remember the promotion surrounding this movie. I mean, you couldn't get away from it. I remember like watching like just various TV shows or whatever, and they'd be promoting this film. But I always remember like my dad would catch it on TV, and he'd let us watch like the ship sinking parts, but he'd always like skip the channel or make us turn around or something, because he was such a stickler for the ratings. But I finally did get to see it. I actually got to see it for the first time on the big screen. Shout out, you know who you are if you're watching this video, how important that is to watch a film for the first time on the big screen. Just shout out, you know who you are. I'm not going to say your name or anything, but I got to see it on the big screen. It was the ultra screen, actually. The ultra screen when I was, I got to see it in 2012, so I was like, I think like March of 2012, so I was like 15. It was just incredible, and now I remember after seeing that movie with my mom, I'm like, I understand why people love Leo. Like, I said I loved Leo before seeing this movie just because You know, it was just fun to say, fun to do, but then I really fell in love with Leonardo DiCaprio, like probably every other female on the planet. And even some guys probably liked him. But yes, it's a bit of a cheat, but I'm including it because in my childhood, I wanted to watch it. Like when I was really little, I was not allowed to watch the full thing. When I finally did see it, I loved it. And yes, still love it. So, Titanic. The next movie on here is another Disney movie. I had to include it though because it is such a part of me. Both, I guess you could argue, like once I show it to you, you won't even be able to argue with it. But from 1998, Mulan. Mulan is so important to me because when I was little, I kind of wanted to be like her. I did. I didn't care if she was an animated character. I wanted to be like her. And the scene where she's singing Reflection and she walks across the bridge, like on the rail of the bridge. I'm like, I'm gonna learn to do that one day. Little did I know that you actually can't do that without risking and breaking your neck. So I never learned to do it. But I remember, like, I was Mulan for Halloween in first grade. I was Mulan for Halloween in first grade, and I remember saying, I don't even have to wear a wig. I was very excited that I didn't have to wear a wig because I was Ariel for Halloween in kindergarten, and I wore the red wig, and then first grade, Mulan, and I'm like, yay, I don't have to wear a wig. But I did. I wore like the chopsticks in my hair and everything. And I wore like the crown and I had the wand. And there's like a picture of me posing with the wand, like very stoic, like she tries to do in the film when she's going to see the matchmaker. She holds her parasol like up here, and I tried to do the same thing like her. So I love Mulan. It was actually the first like music cassette tape that I had when I was little, but I accidentally ruined it because the tape was coming loose and I didn't know what to do. I was only like 4 years old, and I put it in my tape player anyway, and then I inadvertently ruined the tape to the point where it couldn't be fixed. And my mom's like, why didn't you come and tell me that this was happening earlier? I could have fixed it. I'm like, I didn't know that it was a problem. And it was a sad day because I was really excited to have that soundtrack. That was my first movie soundtrack that I ever had. So, Mulan. I don't even have to explain anymore why, but I love this movie. I always will. Up next is a movie that really explains my generation, and you're gonna say, well, yeah, Emily's generation, so that's why she picked it. But from, I think it's 2001, Shrek. What can I say? Shrek. I think all kids around my age from my generation watched Shrek and they love it. And now Shrek is one of the most famous internet memes. But before it was an internet meme, it was watched on DVD by hundreds of kids around the country and around the world. And it was one of their favorite movies. Like, I remember the hype of Shrek 2 better, just because I was a little bit older when that came out. Like, everyone at school was talking about it. I was not in, like, I think I was only in like preschool when this film came out or something like that. But Shrek, it's so much more funny as an adult though, and like just the music, the way they use the music and the storyline, and it's just, they take a cliche of a fairy tale and just turn that around, and it's so brilliant. I loved it when I was little, but I think I appreciate it and think it's even more awesome now, which you can't say for all films that you watched in your childhood. So Shrek. Up next is a film that I loved when I was little, and I love it now, and I know it's not maybe the highest score on like Rotten Tomatoes or something, but it means a lot to me. The Princess Diaries with Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews. Dame Julie Andrews. She's a dame, people. She's a dame. I wanted to be Mia when I was little, like, because she was a real life princess. Like all the other Disney princesses were animated, but I wanted to be Mia Thermopolis, and I thought Julie Andrews was just so amazing. Like when I was in 4th grade, and this was around the time of The Princess Diaries 2, which I also love but did not include on this list, I wrote to Julie Andrews, and that's actually the picture right here. Oh, I'm like falling off the chair. That's actually the autograph picture right behind me. I was one of only like 3 kids in my class to actually get something back, because one girl wrote to Jane Goodall, one wrote to Mia Hamm, and I think she got like a letter back, and then Another girl, I think, wrote to the president. So that was like maybe, so that'd be like 4. I think I was only one of like 3 or 4 kids to get something back, and I was really, really excited, but I didn't share that in class just because like the girl sitting at my table in 4th grade, because we had our desks in like this, like in like table arrangements. She's like, Emily, who are you writing to? I'm like, I'm writing to Julie Andrews. She's like, who's that? I'm like, well, she's the queen in the Princess Diaries. They're like, oh, that old lady. I'm like, she's really awesome. And now, I mean, that girl, she wrote to like Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff is so irrelevant. She's not even cool. Dame Julie Andrews is cool for the ages and a legend. I think I had the better insight back then, and I still do now. So, the Princess Diaries. Penultimate film on my list is one that I did not want to see it when it came out. I didn't. I had no interest in it. And my mom was the one who prompted us to see it, my sister and I. Monsters, Inc. I actually went to see this in the theaters as a child 5 times, and that has been the record. I haven't gone to the movie theater to see anything else 5 times. So it's really, really special. I remember we were at this like card shop, like a factory card outlet shop or something. It was not Hallmark, but I just remember seeing like stickers and cards, and there was a balloon, and I'm like, I don't like that movie. I don't like whatever those characters are. And my mom's like, how do you know that? You've not even seen it. I'm like, I just know it. And then she's like, you know, you, me, and your sister, we're all gonna go see that movie. I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, we are. I'm gonna take you guys to go see that movie, and then you can tell me you don't like it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see that movie. And we went to see it, and both my sister and I, and my mom, we all fell in love with it. And it was just the movie to be talking about, and I don't usually jump on a bandwagon just because I'm usually not that person, but I did for this film. Like, my sister and I had the toys, we had the computer game, which was a big deal back in the early 2000s. We had, like, the Happy Meal toys. My sister had a Monsters, Inc. themed birthday, and she got the birthday just because, like, her birthday was coming up, and, like, all the merchandise was out at that point, and it was just so fun, and I love this movie so much, and I still do, and it's just going to stay with me for the rest of my life because of just that moment where I was proven wrong. My mom was proven right. She's like, yeah, you don't get to say you don't like something if you haven't seen it and judged it for yourself. So, Mom, my mother is always right. Your mom is always right. Just saying. So, Monsters, Inc. And the last film on here was the first actual, like, legitimate animated Disney film that I went to see as a child. It is Lilo and Stitch. I think Lilo and Stitch is the best Disney movie that wasn't Pixar that came out in my childhood. Like, everything else kind of sucked. And I had no interest in it whatsoever. But Lilo and Stitch, it's the perfect movie. Guys loved it, girls loved it, adults loved it. It didn't matter if you were like 8 or 80, you could still love this movie. And because it was set in Hawaii, I loved that aspect. Like, it had something for everyone. And the fact that Stitch pretended he was a dog really got to me because I'm a dog person, evidently. And I actually went to see this movie in the theaters 3 times as a child, and I even remember, like, I wanted to be Lilo for Halloween, but my mom's like, Emily, I'm not paying that price at the Disney store for you to wear the costume once. I'm like, no, I can wear the costume at home to play dress up, because I really loved playing dress up when I was little. She didn't get it for me. It was sad. I'm like, I don't even have to wear a wig. She still didn't give in and get me the costume, but I really wanted to be, like, I wanted to be a hula dancer for a while after watching this film. That's how much of an impact it had on me. Like, I would try to practice the hula during the intro sequence and everything, because, you know, they're doing, like, the hula, and it cuts to Lilo not being at hula class and all that. But, yeah, I wanted to be a hula dancer, and then, like, shortly after this, I became a fan of the Beach Boys, and, you know, it just kind of took off from there. So, with, like, Hawaii and everything. So, I've never been to Hawaii, but I will forever love this film. And with that, that's the end. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you got a little bit of an insight to me, my childhood, and films I still love as an adult. I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.